major video more on the war on Colony Canada and the Evil Crown. Folks, simple question. This is for every Canadian. What do Newfoundland 1948, West Papua 1969, and Catalan 2017 in independence referendums have in common? What do those three have that all the other 42 that are recognized countries today separate them? What is it? Well, they're not recognized in international law for their referendums. Let's start with Newfoundland, 1948. A protectorate under the British Empire merged into Confederation, not a per Newfoundlander one-for-one vote. Post-1945, like every other independence country in the world, the international community doesn't recognize Newfoundland. A lot of people have tried to tell me, oh, Canada's not a country. Canada's not recognized. Canada's a country. It's a shit country. It's a colony country. But unfortunately, it's recognized because it's pre-United Nations 1948 or 45 and the UN Charter. It got in on the old world system. But post-1945, when Newfoundland did its vote, was it a legal international vote? The answer is no. It wasn't a UN-administered referendum. It wasn't one for all the people in the UN system. To this day, it is not recognized as legitimate. Where does it get its legitimacy from? Canada and UK solely. Now, let's move on to West Papua. If you didn't know, this is an Indonesia territory region that got independence. Was it legal? Is it recognized today on the globe and the world stage? The answer is no. Why? Because the vote was done not by the people of West Papua, but absolutely by the 1,200 hereditary chiefs, not elected, self-appointed, self-grandized, completely in violation and unrecognized in international law, 1969. Now, what about Catalan and Spain, 2017? Hector Lopez Bofil, a very good friend of mine, follows me. He's one of those doctorates. He actually wanted to meet all the Alberta separatists. He wanted me to organize that in the universities and give you all a good talk this year about the pitfalls of where you're going and what you're doing, because in real modern world history, the entire world supported Spain against Catalan, who, like Quebec, is likely to do here coming this fall. They won a resounding will of the people and mandate. They won the majority, clear 93 percentile majority, taking all their MP offices, and then issued a vote for independence, a declaration of independence. I know because my doctorate friend Hector Lopez Bofil, where we met in Texas over a week, we're really good friends because nobody studies global history of independence like myself, including regions of the United States and current separatist leaders in regions of the United States that are going through that process unsuccessfully. Catalan did that, didn't use international law. The president was arrested. The parliamentarians duly elected were all arrested. Many fled the country. Many had to go into hiding. Yeah, or were jailed. And guess what? The international community supported them. Why? Because there's a legal path to independence that you need to follow. Why is this important coming up in December for Quebecois? Because if you pursue the Clarity Act, you too will not be recognized in international law, and you will be ranked no different than Newfoundland. You'll be a landlocked region sitting in space, not recognized by nobody, with no legitimate country status, and you won't appear on the globe, and the international community will turn their back on you if you pursue the British model system under the Clarity Act. Now, if PQ, which it looks like they certainly are going to win the Quebec election here this fall in mass majority, and if you too pursue a referendum by Quebecois, you need to immediately go to the United Nations Security Council and file a resolution to have them administer a legitimate one by the international community. So you're registered so they can decolonize you in your British and French thinking that the path you're choosing is righteous, or that the parliamentarians, the Quebec MNAs that will become Quebec MPs for the Quebecois government are going to do all the votes and the acts themselves, regardless of the Quebec people. They need to go immediately upon winning an election to the United Nations Security Council, and then they need to have that Security Council administer the referendum, put in, yes, UN personnel all through Quebec to secure all the regions and host that easy, simple referendum. May not even be in writing, but it probably will because Quebec has high literacy rates. But they will administer it. They will make it simple. It won't be Canada's baloney Clarity Act stuff. If Quebec does that, they end up on the globe and they will be the country of Quebec, recognized by the entire world of countries. And remember again, for all those lunatic Canadians, radical freaks from all across Canada who are shameful, just filthily shameful. The entire world, 70% of our world today has gone through this process, knows it to be true and accurate, and looks at you and says, how can you not know that your region, Newfoundland, that was joined to you in 48 was illegitimate? It was a British bullshit. Yeah. Newfoundland people didn't want to go. Now, lots don't know any better because they've been reconditioned in Canada's history. But how do you measure on the international stage? Now, it's okay, everybody, if you have the courage to face the truth, you can Google these truths. These truths I've learned many, many years ago in my search, legitimate international search on independence. You'll find there's not one single country who's gained independence where I've not met their highest academic, legal, constitutional experts and historians. In fact, you can go on my X and you'll find, holy smokes, he's got all of them there. You'll find even in America, from their best experts to their leaders of independence like California and Illinois, you'll find they all know me very well. I did my due diligence. I did my work. There's no greater expert alive today on legal path to independence than myself in Canada. And it clearly shows by the results of my last video that isn't shared at all, isn't liked. I'm Canadian. It's what I say it is. My crown will get me independence. Here's another fact. Operation Medic Pocket. This is Yugoslavia and Croatia. If you didn't look at the last FIFA games, soccer, and Croatia kicking Canada's ass, and Croatia just sticking it to Canada and going, fuck you, Trudeau, and fuck you, Canada. Croatia got independence. Do you know which military force got involved, unprecedented, in United Nations peacekeeping to stop Croatia over Yugoslavia, a sub-region? Hey, everybody, a former Soviet, this is the fall of the Soviet Union, 1991, Vladimir Putin and all that, and the breakaway countries of absolutely the Soviet Union and their massive moves for independence, and that yet sub-oblasts became divided and then they wanted independence, but countries like Yugoslavia who got freed didn't want Serb and Croatia breaking away, like Alberta and Quebec, and they behaved exactly like the Soviet Union. We're going to force these federalisms together. We're going to force it to happen. And guess which country joined Yugoslavia in full mandate to try and stop the much, much tinier Croatian military? Canada did. And by whose orders? Oh, yeah, the British head of state, the French government, Canada, French and English, British English. Yeah, those two countries in UN mandate made Canada do that. And Canada responded with such military force against the much tinier Croatia, who held their ground anyway and did achieve their independence, did get it done in what? The United Nations Security Council. If there's one country in this world that has the most animosity against Canada today and still, is Croatia. They hate you, Canada. I learned this reality on the international stage, meeting the highest academic minds of Croatia, and I learned just how hated I am as a Canadian with those people. I learned that. No love, no like of me, none whatsoever. It didn't matter who I am. It's just the fact that I was a delusional Canadian to their minds, that you don't even know your history and what your government did and what your government tried to stop. Canadian soldiers from Patricia got a big award in 2002, one of the greatest military operations headed by Canada. They called it since absolutely the Korean War. You don't see USA there. You don't see any of the great powers there. This was Canada on its own against a much weaker and smaller country. If you didn't know, there are just 10 million people who held their own against Canada. And there were casualties, and yes, atrocities between Serbs and Croatians. It's kind of like the love loss of Alberta and Quebec. Can you imagine Canada disposed of, and for some reason Quebecois and Albertans started going at it, fighting for territory? Let's just say that's what we're talking about here. A broken down federalism, a forced federalism, where two opposers don't wish to be in each other's sphere of governmental ideas, cultural ideas, because they're just a complete mismatch. Imagine a country trying to force that together and one side over there saying, no, we're not going to do this. And yes, there's atrocities. There always is in war. But for some reason, the Canadian government ordered peacekeepers to open fire on the much smaller Croatians against the much, much larger Yugoslavia that was a failed Soviet state, right? Yugoslavia get independence, but these completely separate cultural identities forced into that federalism don't want it. Just like Canada, right? Why do you think Canada responded with so much force? Because it's a mirror of what they are. We can make fun of Russia all we want. Russia grows, changes, moves on. But when you look at limited federalisms, what is Canada if not identical in that system of federalism, forced federalism, than the former Soviet Union, right? Who gets recognition, who doesn't? Who gets forced and confined into these cultural imbalances in these forced borders, and who doesn't, right? That's the question here, and that's what the UNSC deals with. You'll see lots of subregions of the 142 who, through decolonization, meaning not forcing cultural will over cultural will. Let's face it, Quebec and example Alberta, which is also the rest of Anglo-Canada, they don't fit together like hand in glove. Let's face it. Anyone saying that's a reality of French and English Canada is lying to themselves. Quebec would actually do much, much better as recorded history as a state of the Union than they ever will in Canada's very limited federalism. Quebecois don't know it yet, but their history of everything they went through, Acadians went through, shows that clearly the best foot and path forward is to leave Canada and then join the United States. There's your salvation. There's your future. And if folks have never been through the United States, I can't say I've done it 100%. That wouldn't be true. But I'm at 37 states of the Union. And do you know the one province in Canada that I've toured just recently very well, all the way through its northern reaches? Do you know that the one province in Canada that most looks and feels like an American state of the Union in all of Canada? Do you know what that province is? It's Quebec. It's Quebec. Yeah. Then you start going, wow, this is a lot like USA. It's designed like it. It feels like it. It looks and acts like it. There's other provinces that kind of fall into that mold too, but not as visually as Quebec in design and purpose. When you see it, you're like, wow, that's a lot like USA, which also shows the Quebec defiance, and I think it's why PQ stands to get a majority, why right now today we're about to witness by Christmas the likelihood of a Quebec referendum by the political party in power. Think about that. But you can't go the way of Newfoundland. You can't go the way of absolutely West Papua. You can't go the way of Catalan, or you're going to not be recognized. That's how you have to do it. And why do I say that again? Because all history, I mean all history, shows 142 nations on the globe that never existed before 1945, but post 1945, all the way up till today, you see the creation of these 142 nations. I could do another video and list all those nations. I have them all. I've read all their constitutions. And what's really funny about the 70%, do you know how their constitutions go? We the people of, right? And guess what Canada isn't? Isn't part of the decolonization process that was targeted largely, everybody, on extreme colonialism. Like Africa was an extreme example. Asia was an extreme example. The fall of the Soviet Union, another major example. But because UK and Britain are allies of World War II founding and got that stage right away, and even though in order to get the United States and the former Soviet Union, current Russian Federation, to get on board with their ally status against the Axis status, which is just colonial A, colonial B. Which colonizer do you want to rule the world? Who's the lesser of two evils? Well, by promise of those colonizers, they became ally because they had USA and Soviet Union, who were two federalisms, two republics that wanted nothing to do with constitutional monarchies and colonialism. Neither of those countries embraced any of that, wanted nothing of it. So they made two deals with a now completely taken over France, a country that fell to Nazi Germany, was occupied and finito with Germany, meaning all of its colonial assets were immediately possessions of Germany, Nazi Germany of the time. Britain was falling, it was losing its hold. It was this close to being finito by Germany. What changed all that? Well, Winston Churchill and then King George VI met with USA and the Soviet Union and signed two major documents that led to the United Nations. We promise that if you help us win this global colonial war of colonizers, we'll decolonize, aka hence the United Nations and the promise of decolonization, self-determination, and self-government for all. Yeah. They had to promise, King George VI had to promise both the former Soviet Union and the United States through the 1941 Atlantic Charter and the 1942 Yalta Conferences that they would decolonize the entire Commonwealth, meaning remove UK officially from the Commonwealth. And to his credit, King George VI had started that process immediately after the war. Winston Churchill died 1 year after the war, 1946. New prime minister. And then following that, King George VI started touring his Commonwealth. He started biggest to smallest. As you can imagine, India was taken on first. India largely got completed. Canada was second. While King George VI was working on Canada and had removed all British UK Crown appointed positions, hereditary positions, meaning no more Crown positions could be held by United Kingdom lords and hereditary title people. He had removed all that by 1952, but he died in the middle of Canada. Your constitution didn't change. We had a new young queen ascended named Elizabeth II. We had initially an independent Supreme Court of Canada free from Crown appointment. We did. We had a free and fair Supreme Court of Canada, kinda like the USA. I'm going to say kinda like the United States of America, almost. Unfortunately, when King George VI died, Elizabeth was ascended and she re-stamped the Supreme Court of Canada. That fraud stamp stays on today because she signs it Queen Elizabeth II, 1946, in tribute to her father. Well, her father didn't die till 1952, and the court was 9 years old at the time, so who put the second stone up from the ground in there? Well, it's a forgery. It's a fraud like everything else about Canada. That was just the day a lie over the Supreme Court and its independent judiciary status was gone forever, meaning Queen Elizabeth reassumed all the crown roles, enshrining those over Canada for the Canadian government to assume all those powers, as long as forever the United Kingdom would always be there as head of state, and Canada would follow its direction and take its marching orders from the UK. You keep all these powers as our middle management of our colony country. You shut your mouth, you play the game, and you'll get rich, while those colony folks, lessers of the United Kingdom subjects, pay it forward. will liquidate them. There goes your sovereignty, gone from 1952 onward. Canada aggressively continues on the path of colonization and cementing that British Empire system forevermore. And it's become aggressively worse and worse and worse. Newfoundland is the greatest tragedy of Canada. It's the biggest lie. If anyone wants to talk about Newfoundland being not legitimate in Canada, that's a fact. The international community supports that. It's one of 3 referendums not recognized by the international community as legitimate. 142 are on the globe legitimate, 3 aren't, and 3 aren't legitimate, and 3 aren't recognized by the international community. Why does Newfoundland remain in Canada unabated, unstoppable? Because of the UNSCP 5 power of the UK. And of course, France, because they look at, we need all of these company holdings like the British East India Trading Company. France has its talons in Canada too. We can see their companies from BC all the way to northern Quebec. Special treaty rights. And you think America's the bad guy. America bad. They actually pay royalties, fair royalties, and taxes. Well, what about the others? Has anyone ever done an assessment on our precious metals and minerals? What about things like gold, diamonds? How's that doing? Oh, USA isn't in any of that, but the others are, and they're not paying nothing. Sweet diddly do. In fact, it's matched by the former South African apartheid, another British Empire jewel that ended in the 80s. That went through the legitimate UN process too. All that's done with them, but immediately it was turned on to Canada. Okay, we lost South Africa and all that exploitation. Now they get fair returns on all their resources, but we'll just take it all from Canada. And your country's been doing that ever since, replacing South Africa under apartheid, meaning Canadians and First Peoples, you're under apartheid. You always have been, always will be, as long as you give your sovereignty away to the old world order colonial powers. This should be an explosive video. It's undeniable truth. But I can see as my following has gone rapidly down because I'm an elbows up idiot, or I'm a conservative, or I'm a libtard, I'm a dipper, or I'm a separatist, but I'm not going to follow the rest of the world and international law. Hey, I'm the superior Canadian. We can do it in Canada solution. Even though no Canadian solution will ever work out. Ask Croatia just how far your Canadian government will go to stop any independence, especially in a limited federalism of sub-regions. Just like the illegitimate referendum forcing Newfoundland into the Dominion of Canada. Oh yeah, the entire world in majority knows. It's recognized, easily searched. Canada, you're one of the travesty frauds of the whole world. You're a joke. You're a joke, and then you think you're superior to Africans, Asians, Middle Easterners. But guess what? They've all gotten massive independence. No better example than Africa. Real Africans, and what I mean by that is people actually first generation immigrants born from Africa. They are highly educated. They know if you bring any of these topics up to them, they'll start talking. When I take an Uber and I know that person and their accent, oh, that's a born in Africa person. So I start talking to them and I'll kind of start nudging certain topics, and then they just start going a mile a minute. wow, man, that's crazy. We can't believe where Canadians are. And they usually keep their mouth shut. And it's like, I don't want to talk to this guy, just do my job, get my money, whatever, right? But they think in their mind, like, how pathetic are these people? Mindless zombie drones who think they're in some kind of superior la because they've got a lot of resources and they think those resources will carry them forevermore forward unto the world, even though most of those resources are non-renewable. And when you're depleting them at an ever so vastly great rate, like what happened to Africa over hundreds of years, just wait, Canada. Your crown governments, all of them, because it's their resources, their land, even though they tell it, it's for you. No, they borrow against you to gain those resources, to get them out and make the killing money for themselves and their families, and ever increasingly end the life for all the generations to come. They want in this generation, this lifetime, to wipe out all the resources from Canada. Concept even 15 years ago was asinine and incredibly stupid, and no critical thinking Canadians supported any of that in a clear majority. But here we are 15 years later, and Canadians are jumping up and down. Yes, yes, yes. Albertans are jumping up. Drain all my natural gas. Do it. Do it before 2050. Drain all the oil. I don't want any more. Give it away to the entire world that hates me. Yeah. For pennies on the dollar, just make my politicians rich. And that's the unfortunate reality we face. Like I said, I can see the viewership, which has really gone down because it's this. La, 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 la. I don't hear you. I don't hear you. I'm a Canadian. I don't want to hear any truths. Even though it's so simple, pick up your device and find out how pathetic your country and you as a subject or you as a defined savage of this country really are as adults, and what you've allowed them to condition you to believe. Because again, don't take my word for it. Take the word of the majority of the nations of the world today who keep up with this history and know it to be absolutely true. I've told people go talk to the Sudanese communities in the GTA and in Alberta, Edmonton, Alberta. Go talk to them. That's really fresh recent. Another one is any Catalanese. Go talk to them and they'll shake their head and say, you're on a bad, bad road. You can't even learn a lesson from us. See what happens when you've got a made in your country solution from a colonial state? That's going to work out, because it's never worked out ever. And it never does, and it never will, because it's designed not to. But yet Canadians go, no, I don't want to hear it. You're lying. It's going to be different. I'm superior in every way. I'm different than all the rest. You're not. You're not. You're not better. You're the same. But what's bad is you're conditioned to believe in these lies that the majority of the world knows and expressly is designed to stand against. So what does that mean? The world is standing against you. When you think Mark Carney's out there securing all these nations, which 2/3 of them gained legal independence, know exactly what Mark Carney or Pierre Poilievre or any of your politicians are when they show up in the United States or anywhere else in the world, and they're doing a lot of this. These countries just go, we know what you fucking assholes are. We know what you fucking assholes are, and we're not going to deliver. Oh, they're polite, and oh, sure, yeah, we shake hands, and oh, you want to give us money from your subjects? Oh, yeah, we'll take the money. Yeah, don't worry, we're going to get a deal. Don't worry about it. Right? Out the door they go. They go like this. We got the money. People wonder why all these American companies take all the subsidy money and then fuck off to the United States anyway. Thanks, idiots. We know who you assholes are. You're going down. People can choose to believe or not. You're going to see this summer, when there is no USMCA, when there's a standalone US-Mexican agreement, and then your government's trying to lie about these annual negotiations on USMCA every year, where massive demands must be met to appease the United States. And it's just like this kunk, kunk, kunk in our trade with the United States, which is, again, more than 70% of our economy, much more in fact. And when even 3 to 5%, you're in massive depression. Never mind a 10% threshold. I don't even know what Canada looks like at that point. But America will move, and people think, oh, it's going to happen really quick. I don't think so, because I think USA doesn't want to hurt its own economy. And because we're so integrated, it's clunk, 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 clunk. And it gives those American companies time to revamp their value and supply chains elsewhere to secure that. That all takes time. America's not going to do massive crunches on Canada. It's little ticks. 1% a year, 2% a year, 1% a year, 2% a year. Add it up after 5 years and you're at devastating reality. One day you wake up and, oh my God, we're so screwed. It's like the frog in the pot. USA's turned on the burner. And you're sitting there, the water's getting warm. Ooh, it's starting to get too hot. I don't feel comfortable, but I don't know what to do. I don't know how to leave the pot. And the next know you're boiled alive. And by that time, it really is too late. Damage is done. And that's a scary thing indeed. Anyway, folks, that's my video. Share, get it out there. I see so many falling off. This is the waves, those who follow me. This is pissy pants people who are, oh, you're a liar. But we will see in the next 6 months, they'll all be screaming all these things. I said before, will I get any apologies? No. But then you'll get a wave of people coming back, following Go Higher, and then people will kind of walk back, because people need, in Canada, their children. They need the paddle whack across the ass. And that's what I just did. I gave a paddle whack over the last 3 days across a lot of Canadians' asses, like little terrible children, temper tantrum children, where dad had to come out and give them a licking. And they're in a corner right now, and they're dealing with that, right? They're sobbing away. And you know what? They're going to come out of their little corner, their closet, after so many hours. You just have to take it. I've done it many times before. These people all end up coming back. You don't get an apology, but it's supposed to be a thing where, oh, just ignore what happened before, right? And it's like, yeah, okay, right? Like, how do you think people look at you as an adult, right? When this is very, very toddler and childish-like, and it's very tough to deal with, very hard to deal with, especially with people who followed me for a long time, but it's, oh, you're lying, fuck you, right? And it's like, okay, let your process go on, let your results go through. Then I hope after your failure, you watch the other come through who's mega beyond you. They're at the legislative side, the controlling crown interest, and watch how far a failure they go with the reins of power, with the ability to do, and watch them waste it. And I have to live through this where it's like, told you so. And then people migrate back, but it's like, do you know how much damage you caused the movement from your temper tantrum, from so many hundreds of you falling off and going, right? And then you come back, oh, what can we do now? Yeah, you were right, I'm sorry. It's like, but they don't even say sorry, but it's, you're right, and I'm ready. It's like, but you've just destroyed the last X amount of months where it was critical for you to stay focused and stay on this. But what do you do, folks? That's how it is. So until the next wave, this is what I contend with regularly: butt hurts and babies, adult diaper wearing child, toddler babies. And it really is sickening. It really is pathetic. It's distressing. You do really get drained and get tired of it over and over when people, when faced with absolute truth, still have an episode, still continue on like a child. Americans hate that. I can tell you that. I got messages, Easter messages from Americans, hugs sent. Oh, don't worry, Dave. You're doing a tremendous job. Wow, you're such a great Canadian. We wish more were like you. I love all that. That's great. But what do you get from Canada? Fuck you, right? And it's like, you're getting presented a truth. I get it. You've never heard before. You've never bothered to look for yourself. I understand that that's overwhelming. I get lash out initially, but to go many months like that, or just refuse to accept, and you want to live in the delusion, you want to share propaganda, you want to pretend a president's something they're not, or the most mighty country in the world supports your narrative, so you're going to make it up and you're going to share that. That's nobody I want to know, because that's exactly what the Canadian crown is. It's what I despise. It's what these people claim they despise. But the first chance they get, they institute all of that crown themselves. And you're seeing that in the separatist movements too. Oh, I don't like the United States. I just want my crown in my province, when really what it's about is about money and perceived idea of my resources, my crown, my authority over these people. We get these rights, these people lose those rights. Newsflash, you're no different than that you purport to hate. You are it. You are the same product. And that's what people don't want to admit. They don't want to admit that they're deeply socialist and deeply fascist. I can tell you clearly, because Benjamin Ebley, I have a lot of American support, but nowhere near the American Benjamin Ebley who runs the Alberta 51st Statehood Movement page. He's got tens of thousands of Americans there, and the reality is they can't stomach this side of Canadians. They hate it. They're mortified by it. They look at it like it's not even so much that they look at it like, how could you do this to your children knowing everything? How can you be this blind, this weak, this naive, this childish? And I can tell you clearly, none of those Americans by the boatloads support any Canadians, let alone Albertans, in that mentality. And that's a huge, drastic wake-up call. And that's a scary thing for future presidencies, where they look at that, and that American mentality, that American view matters to them. It's called populism, which is the majority of presidencies. That doesn't bode well for Canadian 51st statehood. It doesn't. And that scares me a lot too. Anyhow, folks, that's my video. Share, get it out there. We'll see how it goes. But I can see already the huge tune out, because I've said too many things in the last 3 days in this war on the crown that offend just too many people, and they're in their corners now. I won't listen. He's an asshole. He's telling me what I don't want to hear, the truth. And until Canadians can face the truth, it's bye-bye. You're isolated. You're going down the toilet, and you can look in the mirror for the reason why. And again, this isn't my loyal friends and followers. I know you're all terrific and good. I know that, but it's unfortunate that this is a mass majority, all spectrum left to right, because we're up here in autocracy, and they can't see it. They refuse to see it. They know it's true, but they can't break the illusion. They don't want the delusion, the wall of mud over the windows. They don't want to wipe it clean and see everything for what it is. They're just not ready. That takes a lot of time, and unfortunately, we don't have that time anymore. And I just have to hit and smash and hit and smash, not suckhole And a lot of people try, you got to tell people what they want to hear. No, that's what got us in this problem in the first place. Lying, telling people what they want to hear, that's what shit parents do with young children. Those are shit parents who don't level with children, don't try to teach them, don't discipline them when they need to be disciplined. That is the mark of everything that's wrong with Canada. Tell them what they want to hear and do the opposite, right? What are you teaching these people in your society to become? Degenerates and losers. I want my perks. I don't want to work. I'll just sit there and the government will provide. That's what you're building here. And it's okay. I'm superior in every way. I'm better. I'm better than everybody else in the world. You're not. You're not smarter. You're not better. You're the same as every other human being. Equality of the person. If you're a person who can't see that, you're a fascist. And that's wrong, sick, diseased, just like the socialism so many embrace in this country. It's now a majority over the hard-working minority. Unbelievable. Terrible times. Soviet Union communism times ahead if we don't win this psychological battle. That's my video. God bless. Enjoy your day. Bye now.